Welcome back, growers. It is Wednesday, June 4th, and we are here to learn as we grow. Today's conversation is about vertical gardening. Think you need a big backyard to grow your own food? Think again. With vertical gardening, you can turn even the smallest space into a thriving vegetable oasis right on your balcony, your porch, your patio. Let's talk about how to grow up and get more harvest from less ground. Thanks for watching the replay. I see you. If you've built your own vertical garden setup, or if you want to talk about a crop that you're excited to grow vertically this season, drop it below in the comments. And for a bonus, at the end, I'm going to show a vertical garden, how it would be set up, and what the plant list would be for that space. So, vertical gardening can increase your growing space by up to 3 times, especially in small areas like the balconies, the patios, a narrow side yard, even if you have a small front yard. You only need 2 to 4 square feet of ground space to build a productive vertical garden. We're going to cover types of trellises, where to put it, and different crops that you can grow vertically as we go on with our conversation here. So, growing upwards can improve the air circulation of the plants itself. It can reduce common plant diseases like your powdery mildew. In the future, we can go over different organic methods and strategies, things you can brew up to help combat things like that powdery mildew here listed. Vertical plants get more sunlight exposure, leading to healthier, faster growing crops. Keeping plants off the ground help deter pests like slugs, snails, and ground dwelling insects. I have heard of this with people that want to grow strawberries in towers or just up off the ground. Those kinds of critters can't get to the strawberries then. It is easier to spot problems very early on when the plants are elevated and accessible. It sort of lays it all out for you, right? I see Gandalf was going to be back. I'm not sure if he's back yet. Mushroom Mark is here. Aloha, Miss Sharon. Thank you so much for being here. Mobius 991. Thought I might drop in for some good old gardening distraction. Good to see you here, everyone. Vining vegetables like cucumbers, tomatoes, peas, pole beans, and squash. Has anyone grown any of these vertically? Thrive in vertical setups and can produce more per square foot than bush varieties. So, right now, in this current setup that I have, because I grow at a garden away from my home, I am growing cucumbers vertically, tomatoes vertically, peas vertically, pole beans vertically, but not the squash. I'm doing the squash on the ground currently this year. Some gardeners report doubling their harvests by simply growing vertically with the same number of plants. I don't actually have good record keeping as far as when I grew a cucumber on the ground versus vertically, that per plant, same variety, which produced more. I don't have that accessible. I know that a goal for me this year that I need to keep reminding myself is when I harvest something, I kind of want to weigh it. I'd like to see how much food I actually grow, right? I don't know if I'm going to remember. I just get excited. How do we weigh our garden treats? We go out and we snack. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I really would like to document somehow, besides pictures and videos, of course. Vertical gardens are ideal for urban environments. I know I am a renter, so I grew vertically in my home gardens. And those without traditional garden spaces, excuse me, we've heard a lot about like apartments with a little balcony growing vertically. We've seen examples of those. We're going to show some photos here as we go. You can grow vertically against a wall, on a fence. Maybe you already have a fence. Have you ever thought of planting things on it? A balcony railing or a deck railing. I've seen that. I was just talking with someone that I don't remember what the plant was, but I said they might be able to plant it up against a deck on the railing to offer the support that it might need. I think it was to protect it from wind, but I can't remember what it was. Even indoors near a window. Many vertical garden systems can be made from repurposed materials like your pallets, PVC pipe, hanging shoe organizers, gutters, or old ladders. We've talked about do it yourself container growing spaces in a previous live stream. Catch that on the replay if you haven't seen it. Mobius says, I know that I grew at least a gallon of marinara sauce because it's in my freezer. Let's head on over to the chat and see what else we've got conversating here. We do see Storms, Radios, and Cats. Mobius says, I want to use my rabbit wire fence more. Trellis it with vines. It's a pretty fence, but underused. I love that you're making an observation and you're seeing a gap of opportunity and you're thinking, what can I do with this? What can I do? That's fantastic. Jay is here. Yay. Hugo Homestead, how's it going? If you guys want to chit chat about how it's going for your gardening in your zone, or if you want to discuss pros and cons of your weather, feel free to let it out here. This is a safe space. We have a signal sent out by Jay this time to the group. We don't know if they'll make it. Yeah, they can always watch the replay too. Howie, I am so happy you stopped by. Food Forest Permaculture. I have missed your live streams because I have been sleeping in. I haven't been doing my normal routine of being awake in the morning, and I miss you very much. I'm going to try and catch you again next time because his replays aren't always available. You got to be on it, and I love his conversations. Hugo Homestead says, I am trellising some grapevines this year. That is on my list to try as well. We are still in the infrastructure building mode of trying to have something set up for the plants. And it's a kind of a process, right? It is good to sleep in, yes. I've had a lot going on. So I'm glad that I was able to come and have a show for everybody. Janet, good evening. The weather in Southwest Florida was dreary, muggy, and rain. Jay just collected a huge pile of spent mushroom substrate for my community gardeners. I should be making signs tonight. Wow. Mobius says to Hugo Homestead, I just started 2 Concords this spring with a pretty arch. We shall see. I'm excited for all of you. The grapevines are going up on the side of the shed with the morning sun. Barry is Storms, Radios, and Cats. My pink rose cutting is still alive and in the soil. Success. Howie says, I will leave up the live. Sorry, but my computer is saying I'm running out of space. Oh, it's storing it on the hard drive? I don't know what to tell you there, Howie. Technology. It is going to be so nice, says Mobius. Hugo Homestead says grapes take a while to get going. Next year will be better. Mine are in pots and they don't look very good. And so I bought more and they'll be here next week. And the trellis is still not finished. So they're going to have to be in their pots a little bit longer. Mobius says to Hugo Homestead, any berry or even perennial gets 2 years before they need to perform. Yes, it takes time. It's a waiting game, right? Barry says all the flowers are growing, and I definitely have a tomato plant started. Ooh, Howie says I need another computer, and I don't know much tech stuff, and I don't want to know. I am supposed to get my own computer, and I haven't done that because it's a bunch of decisions that I don't want to make, and it's money. So, what was I talking about with vertical gardening? We talked about this one and doubling the harvest and the urban garden space and that we can do it on a wall. What's this one? The repurposed materials, old ladders. Yep. Okay. I think we're right here then. Vertical gardening makes gardening more ergonomic, reducing bending and kneeling, making it more accessible for seniors and people with mobility challenges. So, you tell me here in the chat or in the replay in the comment section, what's something you've always wanted to grow but didn't think you had the space for it? Let's troubleshoot. Maybe we can come up with a solution and you can grow that thing anyways, right? So, vining and climbing vegetables are perfect for trellises, cages, or arches. Tomatoes, especially interdeterminate varieties, cucumbers, pole beans, peas, the sugar snap, the snow peas, as well as Malabar spinach, if you can stand the taste of it. Vining squash. So there is a list here of varieties like delicata, tromboncino, or smaller varieties, mini pumpkins with strong support. And look, it says loofah gourds. How do you guys feel about the loofah gourds? Let's just look at this pretty picture for a minute here. Look at that. Can you imagine walking through underneath that with the heavily planted variety of different gourds and pumpkins? What do you think? If you like what you're learning, tap the like button. Don't miss a grow. Subscribe if you know a gardener who'd love to share the stream. Also on our list, compact leafy greens. Great for vertical towers, pocket planters, and walls. Lettuce, spinach, Swiss chard, kale, mustard greens, arugula, pak choi, bok choy. Herbs. You can't forget about the herbs that thrive in vertical planters. They're basil, parsley, cilantro, mint, oregano, chives, thyme, dill. We also need to talk about fruit. I'm serious about fruit this year. Fruits that work well vertically. Strawberries in towers or hanging baskets or wall planters. We did an entire live stream dedicated to strawberries, the super crop, and ways to grow them. What varieties work well for different planting methods. Check that out on the replay. Melons, small types like cantaloupe, but must be supported in slings. You can do it yourself or buy pre-made slings over the internet in all the ways. Passion fruit, vining and heat loving. That's something I cannot grow here in Minnesota, zone 5A. Maybe some of you can grow it. Grapes, here we go. Ideal for the long-term trellising. Trees are always an option, planting it around a tree and having it go. And shockingly, root and bulb vegetables. Surprisingly but possible in pockets or towers. Radishes, green onions, garlic, and beets in a deep enough vertical container. So, heading back to the chat before we say about where to build a vertical garden. Because we love hearing from you guys and your experiences and your ideas. Jay says, I bought a boysenberry, and a loganberry plant today too. Oh, I love that. I wrote a list of plants that I would like to buy for some future projects. The one list is stuff that I just haven't got yet. That's been on the list for a while. Basic things like mint and lemon balm, a little bit more celery, things like that. The second list is there's a deck that was built, okay, at the offsite garden, and it's where water can flow when it rains. And so I want perennials on each side that are going to live and come back. Obviously, it's a perennial definition, and they can handle wet roots. They're going to help mitigate wet, soggy areas. And on top of that, I was trying to layer in mosquito repelling plants, but those are going to have to go in containers because I can't find one that's perennial that our preferences enjoy. So that's going to be a future live stream, I'm sure. What I bought for the deck landscaping and mosquito repelling plants, that's a conversation in itself. And I made a list of if I could buy 25-gallon containers with the citrus soil mix, what citrus would I grow in containers for zone 5A? And I think I have 6 that I listed, so we can talk about that in the future. If I were to go shopping and have a citrus container garden, they would be inside in the winter in a heated area with either the light from the window. I'm not sure that's going to be enough for it. We might have to have supplemental light, a grow light kind of a situation. But that's what was made on the lists today. And next week is when my perennial order is supposed to come in. Hugo Homestead says, my blueberry is hanging on, but the raspberry is rocking and rolling. I transplanted some raspberries, and they are looking tough. They're going to make it, but they are looking tough. Howie, computers cost more than a lot. Just whatever a lot after a lot is it's just why. Um, Mobius says to Jay, oh, berries, my fave on Wednesdays. I have a lot of faves. Your students were there, says Howie, and they grow kiwi and grape on huge boulders. Boulder is the arbor. Oh, I love that. Sounds like it would be easy to access for picking, right? Mobius says raspberries I transplanted dug up from the yard are going to town. All 6 appear to have survived. Lucky you. Miss Sharon would love to grow a loofah. Interesting. And so you would need, what do you guys think? 1 loofah plant is all she needs? Hugo Homestead, cool. Hallie would be interested to see the grapes on boulders. Loofah is fun. Loofah sounds stressful. I don't even know. For me to grow it here, I would have to start it ahead of time and really baby it. There is a story with Mr. Bowtie about loofahs. Catch that over on his channel, Bowtie Life in the Garden. There, Jay says it too. Yeah, they kind of scare me. The aggressiveness of them. Ooh, Hugo Homestead's talking about sunflowers have jumped up in size this week. Mine have germinated, and they're this tall. And I'm so impatient waiting for the flowers and everything to just because I have put in so much work and I just want to look at it all, but it's still just little babies. Oh, thank you, Miss Sharon. Check out the website and support the channel, shawneegrows.com, where you will find downloadable PDFs. One is free. It is a square foot gardening guide. The other 2 have to do with a salad garden. And what was the other one? I don't even remember. You'll have to go over there and find out. Mobius says, oh, I have a big question for everyone. I just got a bag of mosquito bits with BT in the parentheses here because of a garden chat. And now I have forgotten what you used them for. So the mosquito bits, I have seen people put them in water and water plants with them to eliminate like gnats and stuff. The ingredients we could talk about too. Uses for mosquito bits. Like I heard about it with fungus gnats and larvae in standing water. It does contain the biological larvicide Bacillus thuringiensis. So how do other people use it? I've seen it put in water. I've seen it put in soil here in this. You read the instructions. It kills mosquito larvae within 24 hours. Fungus and gnats. That's okay. That was the quick. That's how busy I am, says Mobius. Hugo Homestead. Been sporadic getting outside the last few days. Smoke from Canada wildfires. Yes, we are in a, what did they call it? There was a term. I'm in a zone where it's bad. I don't have asthma though, so I take it as a nice thing because it provides this like damper shade from the sun. I'm not a fan of blazing hot sun. I like cloudy days, but the plants need sun, and I get it. I'm not happy about the wildfires happening. There's actually more than just Canada that's on fire. There's parts of Minnesota. I mean, if you looked up the map, it's everywhere. There's lots of places. It's record breaking, it sounds like, for Canada, and it's a terrible thing, and I hope they get it resolved soon. Jay Dixon says our community garden plots are 10 feet by 20 feet, and I am the only person who grows intensively and vertically from 43 plots. Interesting. Yeah, usually I see in the community garden plots a lot of vertical growing because that's kind of like the best tactic for that space, right? Howie says cranberries and bogberries grow well. I have a cranberry plant on the way. What's a bogberry? I know the other day we were talking about salmon berries. Bog bilberry plant? Nordic blueberry? Um, Interesting. I'll leave that tab open to check that out later. Cherries, says Gandalf. Um, I have been eating Bing cherries because they are at the store. We can't grow them here though. And I just checked on my cherry tree today. It's a tart cherry, and it's got it's leaves. It's alive. There's no flowers or cherries or nothing though. Mobius says it seemed important at the time. Miss Sharon says prices are only going to get higher. Now is the time to buy a computer. I should have bought a computer a year ago. What do you? Yeah, based on where parts are made for computers, it ain't gonna get cheaper. Barry says, I keep checking my rows, but I can't help it. I've been desperately trying to get a start to take, and I think this one might do it. It's exciting. J.D. Dixon says one loofah plant and about 1,000 square feet. Mobius says, oh, maybe it was sprinkle on soil for fungus gnats. If anyone knows anything else, let me know, please. Howie says, watermelon grow well on boulders as it has radiant heat. Lemons as well for the heat it keeps all night. I have started my melon patch. We have planted, I think, 6 different kinds of watermelons and different methods. And then the one last row is different cantaloupes, and I think a honeydew got planted as long as the seeds germinate. So the year of fruit has begun. Janet says, I think it's funny that whenever loofah is mentioned, we think of bow tie. I know, right? Howie, my sunflowers are monsters. You know what? Here at the rental house, I had volunteer sunflowers, and I can't just mow them over. So we have patch, and they are like up to my knee, and it is fantastic. I don't know which ones they are, so it's a big surprise. Barry says, that's how tall my tomato plant is, 3 inches tall. Grow, little mater, grow. Miss Sharon is reminding everyone that we have a podcast, Learn as You Grow. It is on YouTube podcast tab, or you can check it out at Spotify, and there's many others listed in the links in the About page for the channel. Howie says, I cut lots of greens for the mobile food bank that will pick them up. Potatoes and garlic for the less fortunate as well. Busy day coming up. We have been harvesting lettuce from our volunteer self-seeded lettuce jungle patch that I just let lettuce bolt and go to seed last year, and now I have this beautiful carpet of lettuce, and I love it so much. Okay, so where do we build the vertical garden? Are you setting up your trellis system against the wall? You know, next to a planter box on the back deck? Making sure the trellis is staked. So when we're talking about location with gardens, it always comes down to sunlight. So selecting a wall that faces south so your plants can get the most amount of light throughout the day. If your preferred location is a north-facing wall, your plants will get little to no sunlight. So you need to choose a type of plant that loves shade, such as lettuce. Just understand the shade zones. Like maybe part of the trellis gets shade, but the other doesn't. So that really helps determine like what gets planted where. Okay, so then we're talking about types of vertical trellises. So we're going to share it and talk about it. Multitask here. It's been a while since I ran a show. Okay. The teepee trellis. So hold your vining plants. You can do it yourself with supplies you have on hand, scrap lumber, wooden rods, branches from an old tree. You can use a T-post, garden wire, twine. People like to grow pole beans and hops on teepee trellises. Has anyone ever done that? Cattle panel. This is very common at my garden. if you can afford it. Most hardware stores carry it. You can do them just in the panels, or you can make arches with them using T-posts and wire, T-posts and zip ties. 2 T-posts per panel usually. We've talked about crops to grow on them. We might talk about more as we go here. Arch using fencing panels. So sometimes people use, not cattle panel, but what is that called? Gauged wire, I think. Making a tunnel, arch. You can make it as long as you want, as tall as you want. Wood, rebar, secure the panel in place. Then we can do an A-frame trellis. 2x3x10 boards and some hinges. I've seen people use metal gates, kind of, but that's heavy, and you don't want to risk that getting knocked over and squishing all of your plants. Using twine for a crisscross pattern. They do make netting and grids, and you can even use wood on your A-frame. It's an excellent choice for beans or other lightweight vegetables. On a ladder trellis, looks like it would be easy to build with 2 barn ladders. Very do-it-yourselfy. Reading to see if it says anything else. Sounds like it's pretty self-explanatory. And then there's things like vertical garden towers. You can do it yourself from the dollar store, but they have small pockets. There is something called, I think it's called Garden Tower, and it has like a worm tube in the center, but I've heard interesting things about that. And then there's the GreenStalk, which I can show separately, different pictures and what the crops list is for GreenStalks. I do own 3 GreenStalks, and if you've never owned a GreenStalk before but you'd like to, there is a link in the description for, is it 10% off your first order? I highly recommend trying it, that's for sure. It's very sturdy. I'm going to talk about what you can grow in them. The 5-tier vertical planter takes up to no space. You can get wheels to spin it. You can grow 30 smaller plants in it. We've talked about a couple of ideas that aren't on this list that I showed. So the rain gutters, the hanging shoe racks, some kind of wall situation. I mean, people have used recycled like pop bottle containers and they've mounted them to a wall. I've seen that. So wooden trellises versus other things. Let's do some pictures while we talk. Wooden trellises provide a natural and rustic look to the garden. They're sturdy and can be customized to fit your space and style. There's also metal trellises. That's what we were talking about with the cattle panels. They can withstand more heavy crops like your melons, pumpkins, squash, and then wall-mounted trellises. They allow you to grow vertically against walling or fence. Do-it-yourself project with old wood pallets or hanging baskets or pots. This has the cucumbers on the netting style. This trellis is a wood frame, and then it looks like maybe a wire is down. I'm not sure. Looks like peas though, for sure. This is an example of that pallet conversation that people are saying. I can't remember. We grew in a pallet, but it was just flat on the ground. It was not vertical. And this seems a bit more complicated to me. Here is the example of doing the squash and the tomatoes. And this one looks like it's the netting. There's also Florida weave, where you take like 2 pieces of something, so a wood or a T-post on each end, and then you tie string in and out and around the first layer of the plants, and then as they grow up, you tie the next layer from each end to each end, and you weave it in and out of the plants growing. I've done the Florida weave before. It is something you have to kind of manage and upkeep. So if you're not that kind of person, don't sign up for Florida weave trellising. We are going to talk about the GreenStalk briefly here, since we are talking about vertical planting. So what I want to say is the original here can grow all of this. It's saying alyssum, arugula, basil, beet, bok choy, broccoli, bush bean, cabbage, carrot, cantaloupe, cauliflower. I just the cauliflower thing makes me raise my eyebrows. Okay, cilantro, coleus, corn, a dwarf variety. Again, raising my eyebrow at that. Just because you can do it, I'm not sure you should. Sorry, GreenStalk. Cucumber, dianthus, dill, dusty miller, eggplant, fennel, garlic, kale, lavender, leek, lemon balm, lettuce, marigolds, mint, mums, nasturtiums, okra. It says dwarf. They make a dwarf okra. I didn't know that. Onion, oregano, pansies, parsley, parsnip, peas, peppers, petunias, potatoes, radish, rosemary, sage, spinach, squash, strawberry, sweet potato, Swiss chard, thyme, tomato, turnip, watermelon, and zucchini. So, can you see the different examples of the GreenStalks here? There's a lid you can buy. There's wheels you can buy. What I have in some of mine right now, I actually planted celery at the top, so it has the space. And then I have some herbs in the next layer. I have lemon balm, chives, parsley. The other one I did micro dwarf tomatoes in. I know I threw a bunch of seed around in the pockets, so we'll see what grows, and then I'll be able to know what I did because I didn't label anything. And again, this year's theme is just empty the seed packet. Don't bring it back in. They're all getting planted somewhere, okay, even if it's under a tree, and we're throwing the packet away, okay? Back to the chat before I show the bonus example of a vertical garden and the plants in it, so stay tuned for that. It will let you see it at night and sharpen your vision during the day by 20%. If you're eating the bilberry that we were speaking about earlier, we love knowing what the food will help us with, right? I'm having pomegranate juice if anyone's wondering. Gandalf says cherries dehydrate well and are great in all kinds of food during the winter. That is right. Jay says, I have a lot of red currant plants left from the previous owners. Many, many, many tiny staining berries. Somebody told me that I should get some currants. It was the bee guy, Rob. All About the Bees or something, I think is his channel. Hit the thumbs up, says Miss Sharon. Oh, Howie. Oh my goodness. Okay, trees make the best arbors. We'll click on that one. If you want to hear or read, I guess, what the chat is talking about on the replay, I have the button clicked, but sometimes it doesn't load for like 12 hours. So just come back if you want to read the chat. Tammy Harder says, hello, good evening, Shawnee and everyone. Welcome to our vertical gardening conversation. Miss Sharon says, I will be picking up cattle panels Friday, I think. And they're cutting them for me. If Mark was here, he's supposed to be. I don't know what size ours are. We bought smaller ones because of the size trailer we have, but they have longer ones that would be easier to make an arch out of. I need more T-posts is my problem. I have plenty of zip ties and I have some cattle panel left over, but I need T-posts. Jay is talking about the concrete panels. They're a quarter of the price for cattle panels in her region. Are those the ones that will rust then? I can't remember names of stuff, but maybe. Oh, here. Miss Sharon says here too, but they rust. I was right. Okay. Gauged wire or whatever. Hugo says wood lattice, if that what you have. We're going to try and make our own grid for the sides of the arbor instead of putting lattice board up because that's just how I want to do it. Mobius says I have a retaining wall and my tomatoes are planted along the wall. I tacked up some green rabbit wire fencing to tie them up. 2, works like a charm and looks decent too. I used to have a fenced-in area in the backyard for gardening. That's all been taken out because we're trying to return the yard back to whatever normal means. And we grew stuff up the whole fence, and it was great. Mobius says 1 panel per tomato, so it's like an escalator. Tammy Harder says I spent the day painting my totem pole. A local chainsaw creator made it for a local campground, and I acquired it a few years ago, so it's a great conversation piece. Jay says, Miss Sharon, yes, mild steel, and you paint the concrete panels. If you got the time, that's wonderful. Hugo Homestead says, I repurposed a baby bed for a compost bin at one point. Wow. Miss Sharon says to Jay, I was wondering if that would work. Jay says, vertical pallets are more Pinterest than practical. It really is dangerous to me. It does not make sense to my brain to have that pallet that was up like this growing food. What? Tammy Harder says, I love the ideas. Hugo Homestead says, has anyone used those plastic supports for the strawberries? Plastic supports for strawberries. I'm not sure what that means. Mobius says eggplant is pushing it, in my opinion. Some of it, it's like, just because you can do it doesn't mean it's going to thrive and be really great doing it that way, right? Howie says twine tied to a branch and staked to the ground can give you an instant arbor. Hugo Homestead says, I am trying to plant flowers that can be eaten if needed or used for tinctures. Well, that is a fantastic idea. I hope you got some ideas from our edible flowers live stream. There's an even bigger grow list than that, but we talked about some basics. I'm going to talk about in a future live stream the weeds and their powers, gardening through history, episode 2, ancient civilizations, gardens of power and purpose, and the healing garden. I think the healing garden would help with the tincture conversation of what to grow. It depends on how I have it set up. I can't remember right now. And then we are going to discuss Minnesota's favorite lady. So subscribe to see some of those shows that we have in the future when I find time. It's always a surprise. It's usually after 9:30 p.m. Central Time, and it can be any day of the week. So that's how we find out about a show. Okay, flowers. Okay, Mobius says adding even more medicinals this year. That is fantastic. I threw out a bunch of survival seed packets that I had laying around, and I don't know if any of it's going to grow. But again, the theme this year is just empty the packet of seeds. It's not going back in the house. The Urban Gardener says, hello, Shawnee and everyone listening in while I'm working, talking vertical gardening, my kind of discussion. Yeah, you can see lots of beautiful examples of vertical gardening at the Urban Gardener channel. Check it out. Everyone's saying hello. Hugo Homestead says, Mobius trying to be more intentional about it. Jay says, the GreenStalk costs a fortune in Canada. Yes, it does. I saw that. It's bad. You have been requesting the manufacturer to make it more affordable for 4 years. Yeah, why can't they just have their own line up there for you guys? Because, yeah, that other garden tower with like the worm thing in the center, I just don't know about it. I don't even know if that is in Canada. And building the ones from the dollar store are much smaller pockets. It's almost like, Jay, I don't know if this works or not. If an American buys the GreenStalk and just pays to ship the box to you, is that less expensive than paying GreenStalk to ship it to you? I don't know. Mother Earth Garden Club. Hey, everyone. Oh, we do have a poll going. Let's look at that. What type of vertical garden setup are you most interested in trying? Or maybe you already use vertical setups. So we have hanging wall planters, a trellis for climbing vegetables, a repurposed do-it-yourself thing like a pallet, for example, or a stackable or tiered garden tower like the GreenStalk. And so far, 56% have said trellis for climbing vegetables. I know that has been a game changer for myself in growing with food. Hugo Homestead is talking to Mobius. What medicinal do you use the most? Arnica. Interesting. Big Will Dog in the soil. Welcome to this. You just set up a do-it-yourself trellis for the peas today. The first attempt sucked and repeatedly fell down. It wasn't strong enough. The final minimalist trellis should be bomb-proof. Well, I know we're going to see that on your channel, so everyone subscribe to check that out if you're interested. I use the cattle panel with T-posts for peas, cucumbers, cowpeas, tomatoes. Is that everything? Everything else I grow on the ground? I think that's everything. Oh, you guys, if you haven't seen my short about the first garden guest, my comfrey is blooming, and I've never seen that before. And then today I had two garden friends on the comfrey. It was so wonderful. That makes me want to do the Count Dracula. Ha ha ha. Like we're counting the bumblebees. Oh my goodness. Um, you planted snap peas today and put up a trellis too. Fantastic. I know that for springtime, it is a good time to grow things that trellis up. We have plenty of time for the plant to put up its infrastructure and then put on its fruit or vegetable for us. But when we're talking about the fall garden, which for me, I plant in July, we want things to grow quickly. So if I want to grow peas, for example, in the fall, I need to grow some kind of dwarf variety that gets maybe a foot tall and then puts on its vegetables because I don't have time before the frost comes to grow the massive ones, to put up all the vines, right? So that's something that sort of changes when we are thinking about the fall garden and vertical gardening, quicker dwarf stuff, right? Hugo Homestead is asking, do you make salve or tincture of arnica? I use it on bruises, always gets bruising. And that was for Mobius, I believe. Um, Big Will Dog says you can use 3 6-foot bamboo poles and then use smaller sticks to make 3 tiers of triangles attached to the bamboo by string or zip tie. That's what I did, and it's overly stable. Yes, we talked about all kinds of additional ways besides the garden tower, the ladder trellis, an A-frame trellis, the arch, a cattle panel, the teepee trellis. Um, 4 different vertical gardening methods. Jay Dixon says, I inherited a bunch of wood lattice panels and will be using them soon. Any tips for vertical food on that? Use string to train? The wood lattice is like the diamond pattern, correct? And so I'm assuming you're putting it on a frame because it's pretty wimpy wobbly. Like to just lean it up against something, it needs to have support. So to grow food on lattice, does anyone have any ideas? I don't think you're limited, really. Like that was suggested for the grape arbor was lattice board. And I just didn't like the way it looked and the way it felt. So pole beans, peas, cucumbers, different types of squash. I always feel like if we talk about squash growing up something, be aware of how big it gets, how heavy it is, and be prepared to provide little hammocks for it, right? There's like tomatoes that are cherry tomatoes that just keep going and going and going. Those would do really well on that. And again with melons, it's the same thing with the squash caveat of how big is it going to get? You know, so sugar baby, Kajari, and Minnesota midget don't get too big. They are very fine to grow up on a trellis. I still get nervous though about them getting damaged before they're ripe, and everything counts. So to support them, those were my quick ideas. Throw out your guys' ideas. Hugo Homestead. Okay, there are plastic supports for strawberries that supposedly keep them off the ground. It's like a tomato cage, but shaped like a cone for the plant to lay on. I have never seen that before. Has anyone used what Hugo Homestead's talking about? So what is making you want to do that? Are you having something eat them? Are they getting I don't know. I mean, ants, like so let's see, plastic support. I think I would just like have a rock border and let them dangle over the rocks. Oh, I'm gonna try and see. Oh, I've never seen this before. I've never heard of this before. What I gotta figure out a link that I can click on to show. Maybe this one's a good one. I'm a little picky about pictures and companies. I'm not sure if this is the example that you're talking about, but it kind of fits the description. So let's look at it quick. And I promise I will show my example of vertical gardening here. Like this. I mean, you put one of these under each tomato, strawberry. I'm trying to say tomato. What? I have too many strawberries to be dinking around with this. You get 6 of these for how much? 30 bucks? Ugh, no, I would rather just build a rock border and dangle the plant so the berries dangle over the rock. But yeah, what is the why are you thinking of using something like that, I guess is my question. Mother Earth Garden Club, I planted stevia for use as a sweetener. That's a fun experiment. Learning how to use things. I planted sugar beets. So I've watched it, the process of boiling stuff down and making sugar, and I'm gonna try it. Gandalf, I voted for trellis because I made one today. Yeah, calendula salve is super good for dry skin. My winter project was supposed to be using the different oils that I infused and making salves and creams and whipped butters, but I did 0 of that. So next winter, Big Will Dog says, not only is my comfrey blooming, it also started making additional crowns. Love that. Mother Earth Garden Club says, I have heads forming on my broccoli and they're about tennis ball size. That is great. I am not having any success once again with broccoli plants. Um, Fun reminder to hit the thumbs up while you're here. And Big Will Dog says, yes, I will make a short on it and upload it Friday since it's supposed to pour rain tonight and tomorrow afternoon. We welcome the rain. Yes, the diamond wood lattice on a vertical frame. I would grow the lighter weight stuff, Jay, just for my own stress level. If it were me having lattice board to grow on. And you want to grow food on it, I imagine. Or you want flowers too. Howie says, good night. Getting sleepy as I'm spending 12 hours a day outdoors. I know, we've been outdoors. Howie, I set up a tent. My new tent is outside and I set up our beds in it. And so this weekend, we're going to be outside even more. He says, eating local cherries and halibut au gratin and fading. Good to see you, Howie. Have a good night. Well, that is the common suggestion, Jay. Old t-shirts cut up to make little hammocks. People talk about, what is it, nylons? They make netting things. You can get like a pack of 25 on the internet. Oh, comfrey nettle tea, says Mobius. The strawberries are not happy, says Hugo Homestead. I moved and they are in a new area. There's lots of different varieties of strawberries. I've seen, is it straw that people put underneath them? I haven't done that. I really need to revamp my strawberry patch. I just haven't figured out what I want to do yet with it. That's unfortunate that you're having strawberry problems because they are so delicious and I love growing them. I almost put some in one of my GreenStalks, but if I leave them in the GreenStalk over the winter, they'll die. They won't make it. So why would I waste all that time putting them in the GreenStalk for them not to make it? I'm not moving the GreenStalk into a place where I just can't. No, they'll just stay in the ground. Okay, Gandalf says, laugh out loud, Shawnee. Spell check only wanted to give me the word dispensary when I couldn't spell disappear. Are they watching me? That's hilarious, Gandalf. Hugo Homestead says to Jay, I pictured you in Goodwill buying a bunch of bras to support her melons. Mother Earth Garden Club says strawberries were all on GreenStalk. Yep, but they're gonna die over the winter. Here. Something's a heavy feeder. Mobius says the big wheel dog in the soil. I read they can be heavy feeders, so since it's only the second year, I figured I'd give them a head start. Hugo Homestead says bunny poo is the best fertilizer. You know what I found in the strawberry patch? The second bunny that I didn't know was there. It was living its life in there. None of them are ripe yet at the offsite garden, but I did leave some strawberries in the ground here at the rental home on accident, and we ate 2 from there already. So this warms up faster here than out there. Different microclimates. It's crazy. Tammy Harder says that is too expensive for the strawberries. You could probably buy a plastic basket from the dollar store and make something similar with little work. I mean, there's got to be something with nature that we can do, right? Instead of buying something. I would hope. And then Hugo Homestead is making a funny joke. Gandalf says, did anyone see that 14 million bees were dumped on a highway in Washington? Oh, if DCBs was here, we could talk about that. I bet you they would know. I know that we talked about bees in the news a couple months ago about all the mysterious things happening with them. Big Will Dog says, got most of my strawberries in my GreenStalk and will be keeping it and my garlic in the unheated garage during the winter. If I'm going to designate a space for inside for the winter, I spoke about this earlier. A list I'm working on is container citrus. If I were to spend the money on container citrus, there's about 6 of them I would do for sure. And that's what I would devote that space to, not strawberries when they can just be in the ground outside. Gandalf. Gandalf is updating us on some news that's happening. Okay, let's look at this thing over here that I have. So this is straight from a beautiful magazine that if you would like to get one or subscription to, there is a link in the description. It is worth it. So it's called Northern Gardeners. That's what it looks like for the summer edition or whatever. Okay. I have it here in real life. Oh, I don't know what page it's on. Okay, you guys just talk amongst yourselves because I didn't prep ahead. We're going to talk about a vertical garden. I'll just have to do it the hard way. I don't know where it is. There's lots to read about in here. Shade palettes, carefree colorful cacti. Here we go. So first I'll show, I know it's hard with magazines because of the glare and my fingers, and let's get vertical. So real life example here. Vertical gardening is a chic way to use the space above ground and add new dimensions to the landscape. With this technique, we train plants to grow upward versus outward. We don't need expansive yards to take advantage of the trendy practice. Obelisk covered with mini pumpkins and gourds. Okay, so vertical vegetable garden. See how that's laid out? I'm going to read the plants. I just want you to look at it for a second here. See the different styles? I think there's cages, a teepee, and then that grid style. And we're growing in all the layers. So then it talks about the plan. It literally gives you like the what's planted where plan here, and then down here this is what I'm going to be reading. So each letter incorporated with a plant, a map, you know what I mean? So they have delicata squash. That's the yellow growing on the back right there. Pole bean, purple potted. Have any of you grown things that is a different color? like purple or yellow. It's fun because there's less green to filter through. Green is wonderful, but to add that extra color or make harvesting easier on our eyes, it's fun. Borage, starflower, cherry tomatoes. Ooh, there's numbers. Okay, it was one squash plant, eight pole beans, one borage, one cherry tomato, one jalapeno pepper, four marigolds. Now it's the French double dwarf. Marigolds come in lots of different ways and flavors and sizes and uses and smells. So I grew a whole bunch of different kinds, hopefully, this year. I planted all the seeds. We'll see if they come up. So subscribe and stay tuned for future garden tours showing those off. One zucchini. They did the Black Beauty. That's in the front, middle, and then they have a tomato, one Better Boy, so that's your slicer. They have a cherry and a slicer. 8 arugula, if you like arugula. Otherwise, choose a different type of lettuce. And 9 Spanish onion. And so this is a 5 foot by 5 foot space. And they have all of those plants in that space. So I talked about it here. And it showed the layout of the plan. Okay, so again, I just love gardening magazines. There's more stuff in here that we're going to talk about on future shows. I don't know. Is it are magazines out of style, I guess is the question I'm trying to ask. I'm still going to have them. 6 advantages to vertical gardening. 1, there's less leaning over and kneeing required. Number 2, urban dwellers with small balconies, patios, and yards can benefit. A lot of these are things we've already talked about in the beginning. Create privacy with a tall structure or hanging basket. Number 4, since they're not on the ground, there's less fungal disease. We talked about airflow, and you can see things better. So you'll notice stuff right away, right? Number 5, growing up promotes more leaf surface area visible for the sun and more flowers. It might have higher yields. We talked about this earlier too. And vertical gardening allows you to grow more organic food. So that was the visual I had straight from the magazine. Link is in the description. I believe I've showed all of my pictures and tabs. The kitty needs out. Oh my goodness. I'm just going to mute. We rescued a kitty, and it's still alive. I've kept it alive. We're successful in that. The name is Kitty at this moment, and so this is the kitty, and now it's going to do its own kitty thing. In the background, we have Ginger. Is this one? I need to put it in its new home. Okay, so it's oh, and I need to do that. You know how gardeners have the list? Oh, but and this. And this is the turmeric. These were gifted to me by Duncan 1900 Homestead. And I put some in my freezer and then I planted some. So now I can grow them, supposedly. Let's see in the chat. We're coming up on the end of the conversation. We're going to finish the poll. I went through all of the notes I had prepared for this. We've talked about the coming soon episodes. So if there's any last ideas or questions or thoughts, we're going to run through this and say goodbye. Where am I at? Is this one? Nope, yep, read that. Okay. Read that. There's the zebra again. Oh, hello, LP, the LP Dimension. Good to see you. Oh, you answered trellises. However, green stalks are probably what I'm more interested in, though I use both. Yes. I really want to be better at planting my green stalks this year. I have three. Uh, it's hard when you plant seeds in them and you can't see anything yet. It's much more fun when you have transplants, of course. So we're going to show those on the channel as they grow. Miss Sharon says, Herbal Jedi did a nice video about comfrey today. LP says, I've grown purple potted beans before. I'm currently growing the golden sweet peas. Oh, there's a golden sweet pea? I grew purple peas before. The flowers are purple and pink and the pods are light yellow. Very pretty. That is so cool. Isn't it, Jay, that the purple beans are green when cooked? Why couldn't they make it so the beans stay purple? I know. Here's the link to what Miss Sharon was talking about. I was gonna click it, but now I gotta hold on. Where is it? Put that in over here. Pause. Check it out later. Okay. Opened it in a new tab. Here we go. Gandalf says, I planted marigolds around my garden today. I planted all kinds of things around the garden borders that I can't wait to show you guys when we do our June garden tour. Oh. People are talking about chickens and all kinds of things. Here is Tammy. Question, Shawnee or Mother Earth, do either of you have a recommendation for a perennial garlic I could buy to plant in the fall? Something that's Minnesota hardy? Well, it wouldn't be a perennial. The garlic we plant in the fall is hardneck. So, like, music is one of the varieties I plant. I plant it after Halloween usually, and then I pick it in, harvest it in July. Red, there's a red variety. Is it chestnut? What is that called? Chestnut red, music, German red I've grown. I think that's it. So hardneck, music, hardneck, chestnut red is what I suggest to plant in the fall for your garlic, Tammy. And then you harvest it in July. And hardneck garlic has a scape curl that you pick when that happens, which we can show on the channel in the future because that hasn't happened yet. LP says, I struggle with putting mine somewhere they'll be level. Yeah, the one is sinking in the ground and I had to go get a rock. It's a whole thing. So the poll tonight, for those of you in the replay, was what type of vertical garden setup are you most interested in trying or already using? And the winner was a trellis for climbing vegetables. Next was stackable or tiered garden towers. Hanging wall planters, do-it-yourself was next. Uh, 10, 5, yeah, I said that all. Okay. Jay says Russian and Ukraine garlic are hardy to cold. Oh, I don't think I've ever grown those two. That's good to know. I don't know if we can grow those. Here we go. In Michigan, the varieties suggested by LP for garlic is Music, Chestnut Red, Montana Giant, Northern White, and a few others I can't remember. LP says Keene garlic is a reliable seller. They're out of Wisconsin. Oh, Keene garlic is the supplier? Cool. Yeah, so Tammy, if you have a local like seed co-op, they sell garlic usually You can order garlic from Johnny's. Where else did I order garlic from? Because I double ordered one year, and that's not a problem. Once you grow the garlic, you find your biggest head, biggest cloves, and you save it, and then you'll plant it. Take each clove and plant it. So you don't technically have to buy new seed garlic every year because it's very expensive. You could just keep planting what did the best. Some people say always buy new because then it prevents diseases and all that stuff. I don't know. It depends on what you want to do. LP says, "Oh yes, Ivan is another hardneck garlic I've grown." Yeah, so see what you can find. Also, Tammy, I've gone to my farmer's market when they have garlic and just picked out the biggest ones there and planted those because obviously those grew very close to my area. Usually, we do have farmers that come from far away to grow at our farmer's market or to sell at our farmer's market, but I mean, there it is. I thought there'd be a joke with storms, radios, and cats. So, with that being said, thank you for discussing vertical vegetable gardening, grow more food in less space. We looked at the list of crops that you can do that with. We looked at pictures and examples. We looked at types of trellises that you can have, where to put it, all of the things. I love when you guys ask your questions. Don't forget, coming soon, we're going to talk about weeds and their powers. Gardening Through History, Episode 2, Ancient Civilizations, Gardens of Power and Purpose. We're also going to discuss what to plant in a healing garden and what are we healing from. And of course, Minnesota's favorite lady. If you love garden talk, listen to the Learn As You Grow podcast, available on Spotify and right here on YouTube. And remember to grow every day in every way. And we will see you in the next live.